welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast. And despite our name being the Hoopers Lounge, once again, we are going the football route because we have the NFL season coming up. So we are going to have a deep dive into the 2025-26 NFL season. We're going to be predicting our playoff teams, award winners, and be giving you our guaranteed, bound to happen Super Bowl picks and Super Bowl champion. So, Max, are you ready for all that?
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for the NFL season. Honestly, probably more excited for NFL than college. I've always been more into the NFL. I think just with fantasy football and just the talent level on display every week, it's going to be exciting.
It is absolutely going to be exciting. There are a lot of storylines that were generated over the offseason that are expected to be resolved this season. And it is going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out in a league that has been very top heavy in recent years. We're going to see if there's a little more parity among the contending teams this year. But speaking about contending teams, we're going to open up our episode with our playoff picks, which includes who we believe is going to win each division in the league. So, Max, I'll let you kick it off with the AFC.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to start with the team that I think is going to get the number one seed and the bye, and that is the Buffalo Bills. I think that the Bills are primed for another dominant regular season, and with the fall off of Kansas City, I think is going to happen. I think that Buffalo will slide right into that one seed in the AFC and take home the AFC East trophy. At the two seed, I have Baltimore. This was kind of a toss up for me between Baltimore and Cincinnati. I don't really know who's going to win this division this year. Baltimore last year was very healthy, and in the NFL, that seems to flip flop year in and year out. I'm not wishing for injuries on anyone, but they were one of the healthiest teams last year, and I know that it's hard to stay healthy in the NFL. So I hesitated to pick them to win the division, but I still think they're better than Cincinnati, and that's why I have them at two. At three, I have the team I root for, the Houston Texans. They play in the worst division in the AFC, and it's not close. And I still think they're the best team in that division, so I have them at the three slot. And then at four, I have my most bold prediction of the AFC playoffs, and that is the Chargers to win the West this year. I was between the Chargers or the Broncos, so I wasn't even contemplating the Chiefs to win this division. However, I ultimately went with the Chargers because I believe in Justin Herbert a little bit more than Bo Nix at this very moment in time. But it was a coin flip, and I wanted to throw a different team on there. And then to round out my three wildcard teams in the AFC, I have Denver, who I just mentioned. I think they're going to be good and make the playoffs for a second straight year. The Bengals, who I already mentioned, their offense is potent, and it feels like they haven't been in the playoffs in a couple seasons, so they should make their way back. And then finally, I have Kansas City rounding out the playoffs. They still have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the end of the day, so I can't justify leaving them out of the playoffs.
So I was surprised initially that you didn't have Kansas City winning the division, but having them as a seven seed, so you're not expecting them to go any better than 9-8 or 10-7 this year.
Well, the AFC is loaded, and actually, I have written down the Chiefs as the five seed. But the three wild cards were kind of interchangeable. Like Denver, Cincinnati, and Kansas City, I kind of have them all in the same tier as just wild card teams. I don't really have one in each, but no, I think Kansas City wins 11 games max this year. I think with the Rashee Rice drama off the field, that's going to create some turmoil. Isaiah Pacheco, I thought he was going to be a dominant running back for the Chiefs, but it seems that he's had a lot of injury problems in the offseason. And again, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid can carry any team in the NFL to the playoffs. I truly believe that. But the Chargers and the Broncos both got better in the offseason, while the Chiefs kind of just stayed the same as last year. And I think this might be the year finally that they don't win the division.
Yeah, for a team that has won nine straight division titles, that is a very bold take to be predicting the Chiefs to not continue that streak. I cannot say I made the same on my end. I can't see anybody dethroning Mahomes, at least not this year, as not just the best quarterback in his division or the conference, but the best quarterback in the league. I think that is all the team really needs to ensure that they'll be in contention for division titles year in and year out.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs will be in there. Like, I don't think the Chargers are going to win 14 or 15 games, but tiebreakers are also huge in the NFL. So if the Chargers find a way to beat the Chiefs, but they end up with the same record, like that's also massive. So yeah, again, I think it's going to be close. One of the division races to look out for this year. And like I mentioned, when I picked the Chargers, I said it was bold. Like I understand that this is not a normal pick. This is not a popular pick, but I I hope someone new wins. I hope the Chargers can find a little bit of success against the Chiefs, but it's hard. It's hard.
As a fan of football, I also hope somebody new wins. It's fun seeing new teams get to rise to the cream of the crop. But I just don't see it happening with the Chiefs. They have the best quarterback head coach duo in the league. I am shocked that you do not have the Chiefs winning their division, because I think anybody that picks the Chiefs to not even make it out of the AFC is setting themselves up for failure.
Wow. That's very bold. The AFC is loaded.
Yes, but they've been loaded the last half decade, and who has emerged 4 out of the 5 years of the last half decade?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It feels at this point, no matter how loaded the conference gets, there is still a clear favorite. Picking against its clear favorite is almost what we want to happen instead of what we think will happen, because the Chiefs have shown year in and year out that despite the cream of the crop in terms of quarterbacks being in the AFC, that none of them can compare to Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so again, they have to beat them. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And the Chiefs, ultimately in the AFC, are still the best. Yes, but I think this is the year they take a step back.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see if it plays out that way. We'll get on to my predictions, because I do not have the Chiefs as a wild card team. I do have them winning their division title, but I don't have them as the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. That designation I have given to the Baltimore Ravens. You have their concerns about injuries, and while that is a valid concern, I think while Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, Lamar Jackson has the potential to be the most dominant. When he is on his game, there is not a defense in the world that can contain Lamar Jackson. He is by far and away the best running quarterback in the league, as well as a top 5 passing quarterback in the league. And if you do manage to slow down Lamar Jackson, his arm or his legs, well, then you have Derrick Henry, who seems to be the outlier to the running back theory that their career is basically over at 30. He just had a near 2,000-yard season at age 30, 31, and he doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. And I think that tandem, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, is will create the most unstoppable offense in the league. And a bit of a spoiler, I think the Ravens getting the 1 seed will land Lamar Jackson as 3rd MVP. But we'll move on to our 2 seed, which I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I've already said my fair share about them. I don't think this is the year that they're going to be dethroned, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime in the near future. I think Kansas City has the AFC West on lock for as long as Mahomes and Reed are together. Number 3, I have the Buffalo Bills. Again, there's not too much I need to say to justify this. I don't think the Dolphins, the Jets, or the Patriots are anywhere near the same level as the Bills. Josh Allen, coming off his first MVP season, isn't likely to be slowing down anytime soon. And at the 4 spot, I do have the Texans, who I was considering seeing them above the Bills because they do play in the easiest division. But I am not the biggest believer in the Texans. I am very concerned with C.J. Stroud and his regression last year after his incredible rookie season. They added parts surrounding him. They added Stephon Diggs to complement him, but Stroud ended up just regressing. I know the offensive line play was worse throughout the year, but you expect a quarterback who had one of the most dominant and best rookie seasons of all time to take a bigger leap in his second year, and he just took a leap backwards. And I am very concerned about that. However, when you're comparing him to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Tennessee Titans, the Texans have the least amount of holes on their team compared to those other 3. So I think the division title is still safely theirs to lose. For my wildcard teams, at the 5 slot, I have the Chargers. I'm not as high on them as you are, since you have them win the division, but I have been really high on Justin Herbert throughout his career, despite his lack of playoff success or even lack of playoff appearances. I do think Jim Harbaugh, with his second year in the team, is going to make a huge... You're going to notice the Harbaugh game implemented in the Chargers offense this year. It's going to be very run-heavy. It's going to be about ball control. And it's going to be about avoiding the big mistakes that have seemed to plague the Chargers year in and year out. At the 6th spot, I have the Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, what more needs to be said? Their defense is going to be among the worst in the league, but with their offense being among the best, I think they're going to be good enough to get in the wild card spot. But one thing is for certain: all Bengals games are going to be entertaining as hell. They are going to be shootouts on shootouts on shootouts. So if you're a neutral and you're looking for an entertaining team to watch this year, a team that'll give you a heart attack every single game, the Bengals are your team. And at the seventh spot, my final AFC team, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And while that might be a hot take, I think it might be a harder take not having the Steelers in here because they are almost guaranteed to go 10-7 and sneak into the playoff round and get blown out in the first round by the 2 seed. I don't think they've necessarily worsened in any aspect. I mean, I don't think a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to be worse than Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback. And their defense is still going to be elite as always, and as long as their offense is semi-competent, and as long as they have Mike Tomlin as head coach, they'll have enough to win 9-10 games and barely sneak into the playoffs, as the Pittsburgh Steelers always do.
Gotcha. So me and Alex, pretty safe picks, I would say, on the AFC side. We agreed on 6 of the 7 teams getting in there, regardless of what seed they were. One thing about Pittsburgh, the reason I didn't have them in is that I don't trust the weapons around Aaron Rodgers. I think they somehow got worse than last year. I think DK Metcalf is an improvement, but you lose George Pickens. Running back definitely got worse. You lost Najee Harris, and you replaced him with a rookie who hasn't proven anything, and Caleb Johnson. Tight end, you added Jonnu Smith, but you already had Pat Freiermuth, so they're just going to be competing for targets. And the offensive line is just bad. So I don't know if the skill positions around Aaron Rodgers are good enough to compete in a loaded AFC. And the team that I had as the final one is Denver. Alex, what is it about Denver that you think they lack in order to be getting to the postseason this year?
I am truthfully just not a believer in Bo Nix. And I will say, it was between Pittsburgh and Denver for that last spot. And Denver, I think, is a very similar team to Pittsburgh in that they have an absolutely elite defense, a defense that should be among the cream of the crop in the NFL as a whole this year. With Pat Surtain, Nick Bonito, they have multiple All-Pros on the defensive side, and that side of the ball is going to be very strong. But I do not think Bo Nix is a franchise-caliber quarterback. I don't think he has what it takes to lead the teams on deep playoff runs or competing in the playoffs. When you're looking at the teams in the conference, when you're looking at the Chiefs and you're looking at the Chargers, I don't think the Broncos stack up to either of them in terms of offensive talent. I think they could very easily go 0-4 in their 2 games against those 2 opponents, which will definitely set them back in the division race as well as the wild card race. They will have to be very successful against the rest of their schedule. And with the offense they have, I just don't see it. You have Bo Nix, who had a good rookie year, but I don't know if he's going to necessarily improve this much a second year. And I'm talking about weapons, his best receiver is Courtland Sutton, who has been injured more than he has not in recent years. So if we're talking strictly weapons on the offensive side of the ball, I do think Pittsburgh has better caliber weapons with DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, like we mentioned, Jonnu Smith. Tyler Warren is a great pass catcher out of the backfield. I think those are all, and the veteran quarterback experience, the playoff experience that Aaron Rodgers has, I think that'll be the big difference maker in between the Steelers and the Broncos fighting for that last playoff spot.
Interesting. I do think that this year in particular, Denver has the harder division. Usually the Steelers in that division is extremely hard, but with, in my opinion, Pittsburgh taking a step back, the Bengals defense being the worst defense to ever exist in the NFL, and the Browns seemingly already in tank mode for next season, I think Pittsburgh might have an easier path to the playoffs. I just don't think their team stacks up as well as Denver. But it'll be a close race. Like I said, the AFC's loaded. And one team that neither one of us mentioned that I think has an outside chance of getting in is the New England Patriots. Drake May is impressive, and they made a lot of improvements in the offseason. And I think that if the chips fall their way, they have a very easy schedule because of how bad they were last year. I think Drake May could sneak the Patriots into the playoffs. But again, like I said, outside chance.
And that's relying heavily on the development of Drake May and him developing into a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league. But even if he does, I do not see it with the Patriots. I didn't even consider them for a playoff spot this year.
the main reason I'm considering them is because the biggest upgrade they made was a head coach. Adding Mike Vrabel, that guy is a winner at every single place he has gone. And I think he can turn the Patriots back into a playoff contending team. Maybe not this season, but they'll be in the playoffs in the next 2 seasons. I'm predicting that right now.
I agree with that. I do think they'll be a playoff team very soon. I think Vrabel is a very good head coach, but I don't think that this is going to be the year that he turns it all around. It's not going to be a one-year rebuild for the Patriots, who had one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history last year, and adding rookie Will Campbell is not going to immediately turn that into a strength on their team. Their defense is also very weak. I don't know. I'm high on Drake May. I do think he is going to be a very good quarterback as he develops, but I don't think that he is going to make that year 2 jump that many are expecting him to.
Yeah, and I think the last 2 years have proven that you should not underestimate these young quarterbacks. We already mentioned C.J. Stroud 2 years ago did a lot more than anyone expected in his rookie year. Last year, look at Jaden Daniels. No one expected him to take the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if Drake May leads the Patriots to the playoffs. He can definitely do that, and I think Vrabel is the coach to lead them there.
All right, let's move on to the NFC, which, in my opinion, is the much more interesting conference for, my own personal biases. Max, I'll let you get started with the predictions.
Yeah, so the NFC, I agree, it is a little more interesting because it's so much more jumbled. Like the AFC, I think, is really top heavy when it comes to looking at the league as a whole. I think the top of the AFC is significantly better than the top of the NFC. But those mediocre teams in the NFC that just beat each other up week after week for these playoff spots made it really interesting and really difficult to predict. So at my 1 seed, getting the first round bye, I have the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think that Super Bowl hangover or not, their team on paper is still loaded at every single position. Their defense was a amazing upgrade last year from what it was in years past because of all the young picks they hit on in the draft. I think they're only going to be better. Jalen Hurts proves that he's not the flashiest guy, but he wins games. And Sirianni's also a coach that finds ways to win. And with Saquon and A.J. Brown on your team, that's plenty of firepower to compete in what I think is going to be a lackluster division this year. At the 2 seed, I have the Rams. Now, this is heavily dependent on Matthew Stafford's health. I know he has the back injury. He's been practicing recently, and he should be good to go. But with how old he is, again, you just never know. So if Matthew Stafford is healthy and he plays 15 to 16 games in the regular season, I see the Rams winning that division and taking the 2 seed in the NFC. The 3 seed is by far the hardest one to predict for me. It's the winner of the NFC North this year, and I have Detroit. I don't know. I'm not very confident in this pick because they lost Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I just don't know what the coaching staff is going to be able to do. But I do believe on paper the Lions still have the best team in this division for this season, and Dan Campbell has proven that he can lead his guys to win this division. So I'm taking them at 3. I think they will fall down from the top 2 seeds like they've been in years past, but I still see them winning a highly competitive division. And in my opinion, I think all 4 of these teams have an argument to make the playoffs, if not win the division this year. So that was definitely the hardest one for me. And then the 4th and final division winner is Tampa Bay. Similar to Houston, they play in the worst division in the NFC, and they are far and away the best team in that division. So I'm going to take them to win the division again and get the 4 seed. And then my 3 wildcard teams, in no particular order, I have Minnesota, Washington, and Chicago rounding out the 7.
I do not.
And and I know Alex has the Jordan Love jersey on, and he's a Packers fan. And I think that the Bears and the Packers, that all-time rivalry, will be fighting for the final playoff spot this year. And I'm giving the edge to Ben Johnson and the Bears.
I think I'm more hurt that you picked the Bears to make the playoffs than you did for the Packers to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I can understand
Bears?
that. It's the Ben Johnson effect. I'm addicted. I'm addicted to some Ben Johnson.
Now, as painful as this is going to be to admit as a Packers fan, there is one team in the league every year that goes from worst to first in their division, and I think the Bears could very well be that team this year. I agree with you. I am fully bought into the Ben Johnson effect. I think he's going to be a great head coach in the league, and I think he's going to be great for the development of Caleb Williams. He's going into his second year. He's got weapons surrounding him now. Second year Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end. I do think this very well could be the Bears' year. But I have not predicted that because fuck the Bears. At my 1 seed, I am in agreement with you. I had the Philadelphia Eagles. The defending Super Bowl champions have not gotten any weaker this offseason. You still have Jalen Hurts, who, like you said, not the sexiest quarterback in the world, but can still win games. You have Saquon Barkley coming off his 2,000-yard season. You have one of the best offensive lines and defensive lines. You have the best general manager in the game in Howie Roseman, who has built those incredible lines, and that has revolutionized this team and revolutionized the league as a whole, in my opinion. How Howie Roseman has built his team from within the trenches. Regardless, I think the Eagles are head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC, and I think they're going to cruise to the 1 seed. At the 2 seed, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks. And the reason I have them this high is not because I think they are the second best team in the NFC. It's because they play in the weakest division of the conference. I think they could very easily go 6-0 against their division rivals, the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers, none of whom I predicted to be a playoff team this year. And if the Bucks go 6-0, they only have to win half of the rest of their schedule to finish 13-4, 12-5. That I think is a very good record to get the 2 seed. At the 3 seed, I also have the winner of the NFC North, but I did not pick the Lions. I picked the Minnesota Vikings to win the NFC North this year. And a lot of that hinges on J.J. McCarthy, the rookie year quarterback who technically took a redshirt his rookie year. He's a Ben Simmons rookie, to explain it one way. But it depends on how he plays the season for the Vikings. If he's anywhere near the level of Sam Darnold last year, the Vikings will win the division. I think they have the best defense in... I want to put them above the Eagles. I take that back. The second best defense in the NFC. Brian Flores is one of the top defensive coordinators in the NFL. And they still have Justin Jefferson. So as long as he stays healthy, they will have one of the best offensive weapons in the league. And I think that's more than any other team in the NFC North can say. Number 4, I have the Rams. Again, like you said, a lot of it does hinge on Stafford's health. He has been dealing with a back issue for the majority of this offseason. I don't think he's gotten any preseason playing time, so he might come into the season a little rusty. But Stafford, when he's healthy, is still a top 10 quarterback in the league, can still carry an offense with his arm, and I think he's definitely the best quarterback in their division, and I think the Rams still do have the best team. Although the Seahawks, don't sleep on the Seahawks. They are right up there. At the 5 seed, I have the Lions. You kind of nailed everything about them. I don't think they are going to be as good with the losses of their coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. And another piece they lost this offseason, which is really going to affect them, is the loss of Frank Ragnow. Their center surprisingly made the decision to retire after 9 seasons. And this guy, Frank Ragnow, he has been an all-pro basically from the day that he stepped foot. He has held down the center position for the last decade for the Lions. And that loss is going to be a huge difference maker. Very underrated and significant loss for the Lions this season. I do think that is going to set their offense back significantly. But you still have Dan Campbell as a head coach. You still have Jared Goff. You still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You still have Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. You still have a very loaded offense with name value stars, and I don't think the Lions are going to drop off that much. They're not going to be NFC contenders this year, but they're still going to be up there among the playoff teams. 6, I have the Commanders, who I almost wanted to put them higher because it feels like 6 for the reigning NFC runner-ups is a very low place to put them, especially when you look at their situation where a rookie quarterback took them to the NFC Championship game last year. But I don't think they're a match for the Eagles, nor do I think any team in the NFC is a match for the Eagles. And flat out, that's why I put them at 6. I think the Eagles are head and shoulders above anybody else. And at number 7, you know I had to put the Packers. I couldn't leave them out of the playoffs. Jordan Love, future MVP. Matthew Golden, future Offensive Rookie of the Year. Christian Watson, future Pro Bowler, as long as he can stay healthy. And you know what?
This
I wouldn't be
guy.
mad. I could very well see the 7-seed Packers making the Super Bowl.
This
Who couldn't
guy.
see that? I think it's completely realistic. But in all seriousness, I do think the Packers are a playoff caliber team still. I think Jordan Love is being very underrated in the quarterback discussions. I think he is firmly a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think the addition of Matthew Golden at receiver is massive for the offense, providing a reliable potential, a receiver with star potential, which the Packers have lacked ever since Devontae Adams left. That'll slot people like Romeo Dowds, Christian Watson, Dontavion Wicks into the rightful wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 place instead of being overplayed as a wide receiver 1. They have great tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. They always have a good offensive line. The Packers are known for that. And their defense is a big question mark, especially in the secondary after losing Jair Alexander. But my team bias is saying they're going to make it. I can't ignore that.
Yeah, no, you have to put your team in there. I totally understand that. There's no universe where I don't leave the Texans in my playoff prediction. There's no way. But to counter that point, the reason why I have the Packers slightly missing the playoffs is because of Ben Johnson and the Bears. I think that the Packers need so desperately, so badly, an alpha wide receiver for Jordan Love. Because I'm with you. I think Jordan Love is an elite quarterback. I would say top 10, around 10. He's around a top 10 quarterback for sure. No arguments there from me. But, like, who's his go-to guy? When in the fourth quarter, when he's down 3 with 2 minutes left, I trust Jordan Love to drive the ball down the field, but I don't trust any of the receivers right now on that roster to catch the ball for him. And that's really just what separates it for me. Like, and especially in the hard division, like the Lions have Amon-Ra, the Vikings have Jefferson, and the Bears have DJ Moore. All 3 of those guys clear anybody on the Packers by a landslide at the wide receiver position. And I think that, that weakness has been a glaring one ever since they lost Devontae Adams a few years ago. And that is just the main thing that I can't see. And like you said, the departure of Jair Alexander, I know he's injury prone, hasn't played a lot of games, but he's still a top 5 corner in the league when healthy. And that loss will be a huge one as well. So that's why I have the Packers slightly missing. But again, in a competitive division, J.J. McCarthy could suck, and the Vikings could win 5 games this year. Or he could be better than Sam Darnold, and they could win 12 games. Like, I really genuinely have no idea how good the Vikings are going to be. But I trust the roster around McCarthy more than I trust the roster around Love at this moment, which is another reason why I had Minnesota over Green Bay. And to allude to your point of why we don't have Washington higher, I think it's because they didn't really make any splash moves in the offseason, if I remember correctly. Like, the Lions didn't really make a lot of splash moves, but they get Aiden Hutchinson back from injury last year. That is a huge upgrade to that defensive line. The Rams upgraded wide receiver 2, in my opinion, like tenfold by getting rid of Cooper Kupp, who clearly is not the same receiver, and replacing him with Devontae Adams, who is good as ever right now. So I think him and Puka, a disgusting duo. And the Commanders went out and signed Debo. Like, that was their biggest acquisition. I just think to compete with the Eagles, especially in their division, I feel like they didn't do enough to improve the team. And earlier today, they just signed Terry McLaurin, which thank God they did that, or else their wide receiver room would have been even worse. So I think the Commanders have a lot of figuring out. Jaden Daniels had a hell of a season, but it was only one season. I would still take Jalen Hurts over Jaden Daniels today. And I think Washington, again, is going to have to play on the road in the wild card round because I just don't see them winning their division with the lack of offseason moves they made.
I also have Washington in the wild card round. I have them playing a road game, so I agree with you there. But I don't think it's the lack of moves more as it is just the Eagles' dominance. I mean, you have a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Nobody was predicting Washington to even make the playoffs last year, let alone be one step away from the Super Bowl. So when you have a rookie quarterback that takes to that length, you don't need to immediately improve. You don't need to sabotage your future to win now. They still want to keep your early draft picks so you can sign more young talent to surround himself with, rather than trading them away for those aging receivers that are only going to be good for 2 or 3 years. I don't think the Commanders are necessarily in a place where they have to make win now moves. When you have a quarterback who performed as well as he did when he was a rookie, like Jaden Daniels did, your window is going to be open for the next decade at least, as long as he stays on the team.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to counter that point is the rookie contract. What happens when you have to pay Jaden Daniels and make him the highest paid quarterback in the league? Then what? I mean, then the window closes. I mean, just look at what's happened to Cincinnati is a perfect example. They made the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow on a rookie contract, and as soon as they paid him and Jamar Chase, they couldn't pay the guys on defense. They couldn't pay the guys on the offensive line, and they have dropped significantly from a Super Bowl contender to a flashy offense that wants to make the playoffs year in and year out. And I think Washington could be headed in a similar direction to Cincinnati. High level of confidence in their quarterback, no doubt. But when it's time to pay him the money that he's owed, other guys got to go. And that's just the way the business works because they're not going to give up the franchise in Jaden Daniels. So I think a decade is a stretch for a window. I think so long as you have Jaden Daniels on the rookie contract, yes, that window is open and you need to be spending money then because you're going to need to pay him $300 million in 3 years' time just to keep him on your roster. So that's the only thing that I would say Washington, they shouldn't be urgent to push every button. They shouldn't be urgent to go all in. But now is the best time for them because Jaden Daniels is really good. He is the truth. And until you have to pay him, you have to take advantage of all that money you're saving by paying him pennies.
I mean, yeah, sure, but for every Cincinnati and for every San Francisco that we see, we also see a Kansas City and a Philadelphia, both of whom are paying their quarterbacks a max contract. Patrick Mahomes, who is making $50 million a year for the next 10 years, by far the largest amount of money given in one contract in NFL history, and yet we still see the Chiefs compete year in and year out. Hurts is on a max contract. He's making, I think he has a top 5 salary in terms of NFL quarterbacks. We still are going to see the Eagles compete year in and year out. You still have the ability to compete when your quarterback is not on a rookie deal. Even if he's not a top quarterback in the league, as we see with the Eagles, you still have the ability to acquire important pieces to surround your quarterback with. Excuse me. I mean, we saw the Eagles a few years ago. They started off the year 9-0, 9-1, lost their last 5 games and got blown out in the wild card round. What did they do? Hurts is on a max contract, doesn't matter. You go out and sign Saquon Barkley. Saquon comes in as a 2,000-yard rushing season for you, and you win the Super Bowl. There are definitely ways to build around and acquire talent while you're still paying a quarterback max money.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and exclude the Chiefs from this argument because the Chiefs are a dynasty, and dynasties are unlike anything we've ever seen. They operate on a completely different level as every other team in the league at this time, and to expect Washington to be able to pay Jaden Daniels $300 million and still compete to the level of Kansas City is outrageous, in my opinion, because Washington is nowhere near the organization that Kansas City is, and so I'm just going to exclude them from this argument. But when it comes to Philadelphia, I do agree. Howie Roseman and the GM have done a great job surrounding Jalen Hurts with talent. You're right. Teams can do it. But Jalen Hurts and the Eagles just won one Super Bowl. I don't see them winning another one in the next 3 to 4 years. Their Super Bowl window is still open, but I think teams last year was their year. They were dominant last year, and they had a great run to the Super Bowl. But the NFL is about turnover. It's about change, and I think the Eagles are far away from a dynasty. Again, that's why I exclude the Chiefs from this argument. But I think Washington needs to follow more in Philadelphia's footsteps, is what I'm trying to say, than Kansas City's, just because of the difference there.
Well, yeah, completely agree. I would use the Chiefs as an example. And if Jaden Daniels can hit his ceiling, then they very well could be the next dynasty. And if Jaden Daniels can improve off his already electric rookie year, he's going to very soon be the best quarterback in the league. The Eagles are the template for every team to follow. Every team should try and model exactly what Howie Roseman did. That was a that was a PhD level course in roster building in the NFL. And because of Howie Roseman's ability to build through the trenches, look ahead, and fix holes before they become a problem, the Eagles' window is open for at least until 2030. They're going to be contenders for the next half decade. And I really wouldn't. And you said that you don't see them winning a Super Bowl. I disagree. In fact, I would be surprised to not see them win at least one more. They could very well win two more. It could be Chiefs Eagles for the next 5 years, and that wouldn't really be that much of a surprise.
There's too much good young talent in the league for it to be Chiefs Eagles every year. I fail to believe in that, but to each their own. So speaking of the Super Bowl, we are now going to predict our Super Bowl matchup, rounding out the playoff predictions with our matchup and winner. Alex, I'll let you start. Who do you have making the Super Bowl and then winning the big game itself?
Well, I said it earlier that anybody who is not picking the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl is setting themselves up for failure. Well, I guess I am setting myself up for failure because I have the Baltimore Ravens emerging from the AFC competing against their fellow birds of prey, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's going to be a matchup of the top two running offenses in the NFL, which is going to be a very interesting stylistic battle, especially since we've seen the passing attack continuously grow year after year after year. But I think it will be very interesting to see Derrick Henry versus Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson versus Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. And I think both of those have the best rosters, top to bottom, in their respective conferences. That's why I think they both will make it. I also have them both as my 1 seeds, so call me boring, but that's my pick. I have the Baltimore Ravens taking it home, and Lamar Jackson getting his first ring. His playoff failures have been very well recognized as a 2-time MVP. But I think this is the year that he finally breaks through. When you look at his playoff losses, a lot of them have been because the ball has been forced in his hands as a thrower. His team fell behind early, so he was having to throw the ball rather than do what his team does best and attack with him and Derrick Henry on the ground. I think as long as they don't fall behind early in any of their playoff games, there is not a team in the conference that can compete with them. Eagles, I have already glazed the Eagles enough. I think they are the cream of the crop. I don't think anybody can touch them. But I think Lamar Jackson will emerge victorious over Jalen Hurts if this matchup were to occur.
All right, so what I was going to say was that we agree. I have my 1 seeds making the Super Bowl as well, with Philadelphia coming out of the NFC and Buffalo coming out of the AFC as my 1 seed. To counteract your Baltimore argument, when the ball's in Lamar's hands, he has to play the position that he's listed as, quarterback. That's what quarterbacks do. In close late games, they have to have the ball in their hands to win. We've seen it time and again. Super Bowl winning quarterbacks make plays round after round after round in the fourth quarter of games with the ball in their hand. And I think it's irrational to pick a team to make the Super Bowl and win it if you're banking on their quarterback not having to have the ball in his hands at the end of the game. I think that is insane logic, in my opinion. Yes, their roster is amazing, but if the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl, it's because Lamar Jackson is going to have the ball in his hands and because he's dominating the game, not because the Ravens played a great first half and can take their foot off the gas in the second half and play to their strengths. Those teams do not win Super Bowls. That's just my opinion. And I trust Josh Allen with the ball.
What were the Eagles last year then? The Eagles did exactly that last year. They would have a great first half and then run the ball with Saquon and Jalen Hurts the entirety of the second half. Drain the clock, eat away time, and just make sure the other team cannot score enough to capitalize on the lead that they built up in the first half. That is the exact recipe the Eagles used.
Yes, that is true, but the Eagles play in the NFC, which is a significantly weaker conference. And Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are not going to be able to blow out the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals every single round of the playoff. It's impossible. It is physically impossible for them to do that. The Eagles got to play a significantly weaker schedule in the playoffs. And the Eagles' defense was better than the Ravens' defense last year. Their receivers are better. I think Saquon Barkley, at this point in his career, is the best running back in the league. So that trumps him over Derrick Henry. The Eagles' roster last year, like we've already talked about, was significantly better. And the conference opponents they'll be playing in the playoffs don't even match up to what Baltimore would have to face round after round after round. There is no running the ball with Derrick Henry for 3 quarters and miraculously being up 24 points. That doesn't happen in the AFC. At least not in the playoffs.
Okay.
It might happen in the regular season, but not in the playoffs.
Okay, we're comparing the conferences, and yes, I will give you that the AFC has much better quarterbacks. But what about the defenses? The NFC clears any defense. That the top teams in the NFC have much better defenses than the top teams in the AFC. You're going to tell me the Eagles, the Vikings, the Rams, the Lions don't have better defenses than
The
Ravens,
Lions?
the Chiefs, the Bills, the Texans?
No way. The Chiefs, first of all, with Steve Spagnuolo, have a top 3 defense in the league every year. The Chiefs are one of the reasons they made the Super Bowl last year, their defense. And Buffalo, okay, Sean McDermott has a shaky defense every year. I'll give you that one. But when it comes to Baltimore and Kansas City, that's 2 of the top 3 defenses in the league, aside from Philadelphia. Those 3, I mean, yeah, no.
You don't have the Vikings as a top 3 defense in the league.
No. No, I do not.
That's crazy.
No, I do not.
Brian Flores is going to make you eat those words, and I'm saying this as a Packers fan,
No.
so this pains me to say. But Brian Flores and his defensive unit, I think, will be the very best in the league this year.
I don't think so.
Like,
I don't think with the offense the Vikings had last year, wouldn't their defense have been able to carry them a little farther in the playoffs, or no? With all the weapons they had last year?
Yes, but Sam Darnold turned back into a pumpkin, and there's only so much you can do about that.
Yeah, but elite defenses carry bad quarterbacks sometimes. I mean, I don't see Minnesota as a top 3 defense. Top 10 for sure. Top 5 arguably, but top 3 absolutely not. The AFC is significantly better on defense as well, I think.
Eagles have the best defense in the league. Can we agree? Or at the very least, a top 3 defense.
Yes, they do. They do. And after that, the NFC defenses fall off a cliff. After the Eagles, they fall off a cliff.
The AFC defense don't have a cliff. It's the Ravens and everyone else. The Chiefs have a good, not great defense every year. They are not going to have an elite defense. The Bills are not going to have an elite defense. The Texans are not either. Same goes for the Chargers and the Bengals. And the Steelers are only going to get into the playoffs because of the elite defense. Now, those are my 7 teams. So, yes, I'll give you the Broncos as well since that's the team you had. But those 7 teams do not compete with these 7 NFC teams that I am making the playoffs in terms of their defensive strength.
No way. The Chiefs, first of all, for example, the Chiefs' second best player is Chris Jones, who plays on defense. He's better than any other offensive player they have other than Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, the Packers' second best player is Rashawn Gary. Your point?
Chris Jones is one of the best defensive players in the league, and he anchors a top 3 defense every year. I'm mind blown to your... The Chiefs' defense is better than their own offense. That's how good their defense is.
Last year it was, yes.
Well, the last 2 or 3 seasons. No, the last 2 or 3 seasons. It is ever since they lost Tyreek Hill, they've relied on their defense to make Super Bowls. That is a fact. That is a fact. They relied on Patrick Mahomes and the defense. That is a fact.
Okay, yes, it is a fact. That's what every team has to do to make it to the Super Bowl, right? Rely on the quarterback and rely on their defense. And I don't like. The reason I even brought up this defensive argument to begin with is because you said a team can't get out to an early lead and run Derrick Henry the entire second half. Well, I think they can. Because what defense has the capabilities to stop both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on the ground if you give the Ravens a lead?
Buffalo last year. Your so-called mediocre defense last year, Buffalo, beat them in the playoffs because they stopped them time and time again, forced Lamar to turn the ball over multiple times. I mean, the mediocre defense of Buffalo... Like, no, we've seen teams stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. We saw it last year, so I need to see them prove it before their defense can just carry them to a Super Bowl like the Eagles. Now, I'm not going to say the Eagles' defense carried them. That's not what I tried to say, but I need more from the offense. That's all I'm trying to say. I need more from Lamar to make the Super Bowl. That's all I was trying to say. And the defenses in the AFC are just as good, if not better, than the defenses in the NFC. And I think that was proven by Philadelphia's dominance last year because they couldn't score on their defense. Fine. But their defenses couldn't even keep them in games because they were just getting it ran down their throats by Philadelphia. Like, that is
exactly what the Ravens are going to do this year.
No.
Word for word. They are going to run the ball down the throats of every opponent they face, and nobody is going to be able to stop them. And if they need to throw, Lamar can. He is more than capable of that. He is a top 5 passing quarterback in the league, at least. And you could very easily make a case for top 3, and I would hear you out. But they don't need that. All they need is a 2-score lead, and that team is not blowing it. That team's rushing attack is strong enough to churn the clock, to eat away the time that the other team would have of coming back. And the argument they made for the Eagles is exactly the argument that I'm making for the Ravens.
And I just think it's unfair to do that in a conference discrepancy that we're seeing in the NFL today. I just think that's a blasphemy. But before we continue this argument, I don't even think I picked my Super Bowl winner. I think we just got off on a tangent. And so I am taking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. I'm taking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. Somehow we just did a little like roller coaster around the entire league, and we got back here. So I have Buffalo beating Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. And this hinges really on one thing. If Buffalo avoids Kansas City in the playoffs, they're making the Super Bowl. Like, if Kansas City is somehow eliminated before they have to play Buffalo, then Buffalo's the best team in the AFC. And they've proven that they are the second best team in the AFC. They've proven that year in and year out. They've been the closest team to beat Kansas City every year. Josh Allen, second best quarterback in the league. And, again, their defense is slept on. It is not the best in the league, but Sean McDermott, defensive coach, keeps them in games. So I'm picking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. Any objections with that, other than what we've already discussed?
Well, I will say I wish I agreed with you because I have Josh Allen as my fantasy starting quarterback. So a Buffalo Super Bowl run would mean very good things for me. But I do not agree. I don't think Buffalo is the second best team in the AFC. I do not see it that way. I've never seen it that way. I mean, even in the 1 year where they didn't lose to the Chiefs, they got blown out by the Bengals instead. Like, yes, they beat the Ravens by 2 points last year. Congrats. And they got blown out by the Ravens in the regular season.
The regular season means nothing in these arguments, by the way.
Well,
because we're talking about teams performing in the playoffs, and Baltimore has proven that they can't in the playoffs. Under Lamar, they have proven that they can't.
And Buffalo's proven that they cannot get past the Chiefs. Ever.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I said if they don't play the Chiefs, they're the second best team in the AFC, and it's clear. Yes. It's clear cut, no problem.
Okay. Yes, Buffalo did win the game that mattered last season, but they didn't make the Super Bowl, so we could use that exact argument and say that game result doesn't matter. If we're looking at the game results, the teams were 1-1 last year, with Baltimore by far winning the point differential between the two teams.
Okay, and I'll take the playoff win over the regular season win 10 times out of 10. It's just there's levels.
Yeah,
there's levels, and Lamar is not on Josh Allen's level when it comes to playoff performances, and that's another reason why I have Buffalo as the 1 seed and as my Super Bowl champion this year.
That is a crazy thing to say.
No, it's not a crazy. No, that is not disrespect to Lamar Jackson one bit. That Josh Allen has had some of the best playoff performances against Patrick Mahomes, and he's been robbed, absolutely robbed, by the greatness of the Chiefs. Like, Josh Allen could have 2 to 3 Super Bowl MVPs. I shit you not, if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play football. I'm not even kidding when I say that.
But you make that argument, but then the Bills go out and lose to the Bengals. They get blown out by the Bengals at their home stadium. And this was 2 years ago, by the way. So you're saying if they don't play the Chiefs, that they're the cream of the crop of the AFC. They're not. They have lost to other teams. They have put up stinkers in the playoffs against other AFC teams besides the Chiefs.
That was one game.
Year in and year out.
They put a stinker up against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who went to the Super Bowl that year.
And every other year, they lose to the Chiefs. So what does that say about the Bills?
It says the Chiefs are a dynasty and that the Bills are the second best team in the AFC. That's all I've been saying for the last 10 minutes, and how they're still better than Baltimore. I'm not arguing that they're better than Kansas City. They're better than Baltimore. That's just a fact.
Yeah, and I'm arguing there's not a fact. Baltimore is going to come out this season and make a statement. I cannot wait. I am almost becoming a Ravens fan at heart because of this.
All right, well, this is going to be fun to track throughout the season. The Buffalo versus Baltimore little side bet that we've got going on in this podcast, because I love arguments like that. It would make talking sports so much fun, but I just don't see how you can put your faith in Lamar over Josh Allen at this time. That's all I'm saying. And we're going to move on from this, and we're going to go to our award predictions now, because we could talk about this
you're not gonna like this
for the next 3 hours. And you're not going to like mine either.
For MVP.
All right, so we'll just start there. He's going Lamar. I'm going Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I know he won it last year, but he's going to become the 5th player all time to win back-to-back MVPs. I've already talked about the Bills enough. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think Josh Allen's going to win the MVP, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead.
I mean, for all the reasons that I have said too, I have the Ravens as the 1 seed in the AFC. I have them winning the AFC, and I think Lamar is going to have the best season of his career, a career that has already had 2 MVPs to it.
Yeah,
which is more than Allen.
Lamar was definitely one of the names I considered for. Lamar was definitely one of the names I considered for MVP, and a dark horse this year. I'm talking dark horse. This hinges on my playoff prediction. If the Chargers want to win the division, and if they want to make a deep playoff run, watch out for a Justin Herbert MVP caliber season. I'm not predicting it, but I'm just saying.
I hate that, actually.
But I'm just saying that if they do win the division like I predicted, and they do maybe win 1 or 2 playoff games this year, it's going to be because Justin Herbert is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL this year, and that could put him in the MVP race, maybe win it. Just going to throw that out there.
The only issue I see with that is that the Harbaugh offensive scheme is very more run-friendly than pass-friendly. But I do agree that the Chargers do have the team success that you are predicting for them through the season. I think that will put Justin Herbert in the conversation for MVP, regardless of what his stats look like. As long as he's not putting up 10 touchdowns and 15 picks.
Yeah,
if they do that, they're not winning anything.
Yeah, Harbaugh teams.
I agree with your point.
They love to run the ball, no doubt. But Justin Herbert is still the Chargers' best player, and I think quarterbacks on good teams in the NFL are almost a guaranteed lock to win MVPs. So that's just something I want to throw out there. All right, now we're going to move to another award, the Offensive Player of the Year, which last year went to Saquon Barkley and his historic season. Alex, who do you have taking home the award this year?
This one was tough. It was very hard to choose between. I had 4 or 5 players that I could very easily make a case for. Saquon, I could very well see him going back to back. I mean, Bijan Robinson, he could very well explode as a new face of the running backs in the league. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase are the top 2 receivers, and both are on teams that should be at least playoff contenders this year. It was very hard to choose between them 4 and then others such as Jahmyr Gibbs, Jaden Daniels as a dark horse. But I ended up going with Jamar Chase because if the Bengals are going to make the playoffs this year, the offense is going to need to be explosive. It is well established that their defense is going to suck and suck very bad. Their offense is going to need to be scoring 30, 35 points to be able to stay in these games. And I think if they're doing that, then Joe Burrow is having a lot of success in the air, throwing it to his receivers such as Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yosefis. And, I mean, if MVP is a quarterback award, Offensive Player of the Year has typically gone to the best non-quarterback. So, judging by those rules, I'm going to give it to Chase. Because if the Bengals are going to be competitive, he needs this award.
Yeah, so for the sake of the predictions, I also have Jamar Chase. I just want to pencil that in. But for the sake of entertainment, I'm going to talk about another guy who I could see winning Offensive Player of the Year this year, and that is Bijan Robinson. He is one of the most exciting players in football. And he has the ability to be the best running back in the NFL any season that he comes into it healthy, I believe. Atlanta starting Michael Penix this year at quarterback, I think will give them a totally different look. I think they're going to have a lot better of a scheme just because of Penix's slight mobility edge over Kirk Cousins. I think teams are going to have to respect that just a little bit more. I think the Falcons have clearly abandoned the 1-2 punch of Bijan and Tyler Algier. I think they've completely thrown that out the window, and they're going to run Bijan into the dirt this year. I love Bijan Robinson, love watching him play, and I think he could win Offensive Player of the Year. But my pick is Jamar Chase for all the reasons Alex mentioned. He's the best non-quarterback that plays offense, and he plays on arguably the best offense that's going to have to score probably 28 points a week just to be competitive in games this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what I said. But a follow-up question for you about your Bijan point. I mean, I also listed Bijan as a contender, so I don't disagree with you there. However, what turned me off from picking Bijan Robinson was the Falcons' team success. I mean, neither of us had the Falcons making the playoffs, so it's safe to say that both of us expect their ceiling to be at 9-8. Neither of us expect them to be a double-digit win team. Neither of us expect them to be a playoff team. So do you think a team that goes, at best 9-8 could have an offensive rookie or an offensive player of the year winner?
Well, I do. Strictly because of Joe Burrow's MVP case last year. I mean, the Bengals didn't even make the playoffs last year, and yet Joe Burrow was still being considered for MVP. And I think MVP is a much more team record stat than the offensive player of the year. So just going off recent voters, I definitely think if the Falcons go 9-8 and Bijan had a season similar to what Saquon did last year, absolutely Bijan could win offensive player of the year, no doubt.
All right, I like the take. I agree with it.
All right.
Let's move on to our defensive player of the year, though. Max, let you get us started with that. Who do you have?
So I mentioned this guy's name earlier in the podcast, and he is coming back from injury.
I feel like we're going we have the same guy.
I think the clear-cut favorite for comeback player of the year, and it probably won't be close in that department, but I am also picking him to win defensive player of the year, and that is Aiden Hutchinson of the Lions. He was on pace to win defensive player of the year last year before the gruesome injury, and I think injuries like that tend to light a fire under elite athletes such as Aiden Hutchinson. And I think with Dan Campbell, knowing that he's going to have to get more out of his players because of the coaching losses in the offseason, I think Hutchinson's just going to absolutely dominate for Detroit this year. And prayers up that he stays healthy, fingers crossed. He would be my pick to win Defensive Player of the Year. It was hard not to take my guy, Will Anderson, but I just don't think the Texans' defense as a whole is a lot better than Detroit's, and I don't think Will Anderson will stand out as much as Aiden Hutchinson will, and that's why I'm picking Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, we are on the same wavelength there. I also have Hutchinson, again, for all the reasons that you said. This injury should hopefully light a fire on it under him. He was the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year before his absolutely gruesome leg injury. And if he recovers from that 100%, he should retake his place among the best pass rushers in the league. And pass rushers generally do get, I guess, favored from the voters in terms of Defensive Player of the Year votings, and more than secondary and linebacker. But you said Hutchinson is the runaway favorite for comeback player of the year. I think you're forgetting about your boy Nick Chubb. I think he could very well be in the conversation too.
Stop. Nick Chubb, well, he's
You're laughing at that?
well, he's gonna. I mean, Nick Chubb is gonna dominate the first 4 weeks of the season because of this Joe Mixon injury, and then he's going to be relegated back to running back too. So, I would love Nick Chubb to win comeback player of the year. I mean, he'd be insane, but no, I think Hutchinson to win.
I didn't think that was that horrible of a take, but I'll take the Texans fans' word on this.
I mean, yes, I love Nick Chubb too, but before we recorded this episode, you were telling me he only had one working leg. Now you're telling me he's going to win comeback player of the year? I mean, how does that work?
I said, okay, I was more shitting on Nick Chubb because he's on the Texans and that's your team. I know he's going to be better than what I was saying he was going to be. I was talking shit to talk shit.
Yeah, I know.
I just think Chubb still has something left in the tank. I mean, yes, he's on the older side for running backs, but he's also missed multiple years because of injuries. So, yes, he might be, what is he, 32 now? 31, 32?
Yeah, early 30s for sure.
Yeah, but he's missed 2 or 3 years because of injuries. So his legs are 28, 29, which is prime running back years. I very well think that Nick Chubb, if he takes off the first 4 weeks of the season, he could claim that starting spot for himself over Joe Mixon and then run away with the award. I could very well see Nick Chubb easily winning the.
Well, I love that take. I love that take.
Easily was a bit much, but
he's a dark horse for comeback player of the year. I like that.
Yeah, he's a dark horse, and I wouldn't say he's that far away from Hutchinson in terms of the betting odds. if I had to make the odds.
Oh, I love that argument. I'm not going to argue with you about Texans players doing good. I'm not. I can't. I can't. All right, and then finally, we wanted to talk before we get into our week 1 picks and our final game. We wanted to talk about some rookies that we're excited to watch this year. You know, with the draft being far, far away now, this is more for me from a fantasy perspective. I wanted to talk about some rookies that I'm just excited to draft, excited to watch. A couple from the running back department. I'm going to talk about Amarian Hampton on the Chargers. I think he's going to be insanely good this year. With the injury to Najee Harris and with the predicted success I have of the Chargers, Hampton's going to be a huge role, huge catalyst in that. And then the other one, like we mentioned the Patriots earlier, TreVeyon Henderson. Ever since he ran that kickoff back in the preseason for a touchdown, like this kid is just insane. And I'm really excited to watch him in a offense that lacks playmakers. I expect the ball to be in his hands a lot, and it'll be exciting to watch him play.
All right. I have 3 rookies starting on my fantasy team this year. So I plan on talking about all 3 of those. One of those is Amarian Hampton, who you already mentioned. So we don't need to elaborate on him. The second one I have is Penn State alum Tyler Warren at the tight end position. People are debating between him and Colston Loveland, and truthfully, maybe there's a bit of bias here, but I don't think it's a debate. I think Warren is leagues above Loveland. Warren, as the one and only offensive threat on pass-catching offensive threat on Penn State last year, was still had arguably one of the best seasons that we've seen from a college tight end ever. He was incredible, and it was very well worthy of a top 10 pick after the season he had. I think for a team like the Colts, who don't have an established quarterback, I mean, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson have been battling it out all offseason. I think they need a player to be that safety valve, to be that player that they can check it down to when they need 5 or 6 or 7 yards, when they need that chunk play. And Tyler Warren you could not sculpt a better player than Tyler Warren. 6'6", 260. He will always get open on those quick ins and out routes, those quick comeback routes. And I think he's going to get a lot of catches for the Colts this year, a lot of receiving yards, touchdowns. I mean, that depends on the offense as a whole, but I think Tyler Warren is going to have a very explosive rookie season at the tight end position. The other rookie that I have, starting for my fantasy team, is future Offensive Player of the Year, Matthew Golden.
This guy.
Okay, I'll be realistic for a second. Is Matthew Golden winning an Offensive Player of the Year? Probably not. But I have only read incredible things about Golden in this offseason. How nobody on the Packers, admittedly, weak secondary, has been able to cover him all offseason. I think as a rookie, he is going to immediately establish himself as a Packers wide receiver 1, as Jordan Love's go-to target. And that is going to make or break a Packer season if he can live up to that role as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those guys, like you mentioned, are going to dominate this year probably just because of the roles they're slotting into. And just to piggyback off your Tyler Warren point, he was awesome until he got drafted to the Colts because I hate the Colts so much. And I will never root for Tyler Warren again in my life. But he was awesome at Penn State. He was so cool at Penn State. I mean, that dude was a beast. A quick question for you about Tyler Warren. Do you think he'll be running the ball as much as he did in college in the pros?
As much as I would want him to for obvious fantasy-related purposes, I don't think so. I think that was more of a thing that was utilized in college because you have this 6'6" tank who can run a 4'5", 4'6", 40. I mean, he's arguably the best athlete on the field. Nobody can stop him. And you're in the NFL, every player on the field can do that. So he's not going to have that athletic advantage like he did in college. So I don't think he's going to be carrying the ball or throwing the ball or taking snaps behind center like he did at Penn State.
Yeah, and I agree just because of the team he's on. I mean, if the Colts want to run design quarterback runs, that's what Anthony Richardson is actually good at. So you probably wouldn't use Tyler Warren for that, but I was just interested to see what you thought about that.
Yeah, one defensive player or defensive rookie that I want to spotlight is a player that has been in the headlines for a lot of the wrong reasons this offseason, and that is Shamar Stewart on the Bengals. He had the whole dispute over the offseason with his contract him being the only first rounder to not sign because he wanted guaranteed money that the Bengals weren't willing to give him. After that entire saga, Shamar Stewart is going to need to show out if he wants to remain relevant in the NFL. Because if he comes out and he's immediately shut down by every offensive line he goes against, that is not a good look for a guy that had this big contract saga before he even played a game in the NFL. So just seeing how he turns out, if he can live up to the hype that he's built up for himself, and especially for a weak Bengals defense, it'll be a very interesting storyline to follow.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about him on my list of rookies to watch. And I think what will help him a lot is if the Bengals are able to sign Hendrickson opposite of Stewart. Because without Hendrickson, Stewart's only going to struggle more theoretically in his rookie season before he develops into a dominant edge rusher if he'll ever get there. So, yeah, I think Shamar Stewart, with all the drama he caused in the offseason, I definitely think he's a name to watch the first month of the season just to see if he can hang, All right, so with all of our predictions out of the way, we are now going to go to our Week 1 picks. We are going to be picking 4 of the Week 1 games, including all 3 of the primetime games Week 1. So, Alex, with all the talk about Philadelphia that we just did in the last hour, and we didn't spend a minute, not even a second, talking about the Dallas Cowboys, the first game up is Dallas versus Philadelphia, and I think I know where both of us are going here. So, my next question is, do they cover the 7-point spread?
Yes. Philadelphia will have at least 2 scores. We've already talked about Philadelphia enough. We don't need to talk anymore about how good they are. Instead, we can talk about Dallas. What is Dallas doing? I mean, you have a generational defensive player in Micah Parsons who has been the heart and soul, the only reason your defense has even been average since he has been drafted. And now that he's wanting to get paid like the superstar he is, Jerry Jones is being cheap all of a sudden. It makes 0 sense. I mean, and this just seems to be almost the Cowboys' thing. I mean, every year they get into a contract standoff with their superstar. They cause unnecessary bad blood with their superstar before they end up paying him. And we saw it with Dak Prescott. We saw it with CeeDee Lamb, and we're seeing it once again with Micah Parsons. So I don't understand why the Cowboys just refuse to make their star players happy when they're going to end up paying them anyways. Like, cut all the drama, cut all the bullshit out. Just pay the man what you're going to anyways.
Yeah, Cowboys fans would love if Jerry Jones had that mindset going into contract arguments. And I agree. I think I picked the Eagles to win this game, and I picked the Eagles to win by at least 10 points. The only reason I think Dallas could keep this close is because it's a divisional game, and most, recent history would suggest that these games are close. But the Eagles, I don't see, they're such a well-run organization, and they have so much returners from their Super Bowl team. I don't see a Super Bowl hangover in their future this year. And at home, too, that place is going to be so loud when they raise the banner before the game. Dallas, just chalk it up and get to week 2. Like, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Especially if Micah Parsons doesn't play, like, they have 0 chance.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully Parsons is playing in that game because he very well might be holding out.
Yeah, there's no promises that he does play. So I think we're both on the same page there. Philadelphia to win by 2 scores at home on the opening game of the season. Next up, we'll move to the Sunday games. We're going to start with another divisional matchup, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons, which right now on most sports books is a close spread, only 1.5 points. So they think it could go either way. Alex, who do you have taking home the dub in week 1?
It is going to be a very close game. We've talked about both teams. Both of us have the Bucs winning the division title, while you have Bijan in contention for Offensive Player of the Year. So both teams should be, at the very least, around average to above average. It should be close. I do have Tampa Bay taking this in a very close matchup, although I don't like picking Tampa early in the season because I figure their offense is going to be a little bit worse while they wait for Chris Godwin to return from injury. But I believe in Baker Mayfield. I think he is a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think he might be arguably the most underrated player in the league. And I think Baker's going to lead the Bucs to a lot of success this year, hence why I had them in the 2 slot. And I think that'll start with a win over a division rival in Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. I have Tampa Bay taking home a very close and competitive game. Being on the road in week one should be difficult, but I trust Todd Bowles in that defense to frustrate Penix in really the most pressure he's had in his NFL career. Last year, he started the last few games for Kirk, but that was really just a tryout for this season. Now the full pressure is on Penix's shoulders to lead the Falcons to a division title because again, it's wide open. This division is wide open. It's not good. So if Atlanta, again, if their offense performs to the level it should on paper and they're able to, beat Tampa Bay once or twice, they could win the division if Penix, plays good. But I think week one, it'll take him some weeks to get used to, the offense, his teammates, whatnot. And I expect Tampa Bay to win a close one because of Baker Mayfield and the quarterback advantage that Tampa Bay has. And then
let's move on to our next game, which should be a very interesting debate because we have, once again, the Ravens versus the Bills.
I didn't even think about
We
this
cannot escape.
when we were arguing about
cannot
this
escape
20 minutes ago.
This episode.
Oh, hold on. I just got a notification regarding the NFL that the Bengals just signed Trey Hendrickson to a 1-year contract. So we were just talking. We were just talking. Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Did he get
30 million.
franchise tagged or did he get a contract?
No, it says they reached a deal, 1 year, 30 million, and he'll become a free agent next off season. So interesting, very interesting. We were just talking about Cincinnati. I don't think that changes our predictions of them winning the division or making the wild card. I don't really think so, but we were just talking about it, so I wanted to interrupt you there.
That should only be good for Shamar Stewart, who we were talking about earlier. Having an experienced star pass rusher on his opposite side, the defense will be entirely focused on stopping the first-round rookie.
Yeah, call me Schefter right there. Breaking news in the podcast room. Got that news out real quick. But back to the predictions. Sunday Night Football, Week 1, should be the best game of Week 1, in my opinion. Baltimore versus Buffalo in New York. I mean, do we even say who we're picking for this game?
Give me Lamar Jackson.
All right.
Give me the
All right.
future 3-time MVP.
Okay, I'll take Buffalo, and I think we've said enough on this game. Should be a great game, though. I'm not expecting a blowout in either direction.
It should be awesome.
Yeah, and then finally, the last game we're going to pick is Monday Night Football, another divisional game. Crazy that there's that many week 1, and that is the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Chicago to face the Bears in Ben Johnson's head coaching debut. Alex, who do you have winning on Monday Night Football?
Now, I know I have the Vikings winning the division, but I have been so tempted to pick the Bears. Minnesota traveling to Chicago for Ben Johnson's first game as an NFL head coach. He's going to want to go out there and have his team make a statement against a projected playoff team in the Vikings. But I cannot do it. Maybe it's because I hate the Bears and I can't ever pick them to win. But I think the Vikings are going to be that good this year. I believe in J.J. McCarthy and that he can be at least as good as Sam Darnold was last year. As long as Jay Jetta stays healthy, their offense will be a threat. I have already harped on how good I believe the Vikings defense is going to be. And I just think those factors, the team building, the coaching, I think they're going to offset any momentum that the Bears bring in with them in Chicago. Give me the Vikings.
All right, so another game that we disagree on. I'm going to take the home team. A night game at home in Soldier Field should favor Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. And believe it or not, I do really like J.J. McCarthy. I have Minnesota in the wild card as well as Chicago. And this is one of those divisional games where I'm just going to take the home team purely because of that factor. If Minnesota won this game, I would not be surprised. If Chicago made that statement, like you said, and beat Minnesota by 2 touchdowns, I also would not be surprised. I think this, of the 4 games, was the most difficult one for me to predict. And I am going to lean Chicago, but this should be a great end to week 1. And with that being said, we are now going to transition into the end of the episode. We're doing the Immaculate Grid, the return of the Immaculate Grid, where me and Alex will team up to go perfectly 9 for 9. And because we have expanded our editing skills, you'll be seeing the grid as we do it now. So you'll be able to play with us. Can you guys believe that? We actually did something productive once. And we are excited to. Yes, we are. We are excited to bring that feature to you. So here we go. I'm going to show this just to Alex in case he wants to see it, write it down, whatever. This is today's Immaculate Grid. You just go on Safari, Google, whatever, look it up. They have one for almost every sport. And all we have to do is pick a player that fits both categories at the same time. Are you locked in? Let's go.
I believe so.
All right. In the first section, we have a player from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons.
Jaquace Rogers.
Who?
Jaquace Rogers. I only know him because I have his football card. He's like a 5'6" running back. I believe he played for both of them. I'm like 95% sure. Jaquaizz Rogers.
Jaquiz Rogers. Did he retire in 2018? Does that sound right?
That sounds about right.
All right, we're trusting Alex on the first one of a dude that retired 7 years ago. Bang, 2%. What a start for the lads. What a start for the lads. All right. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New York Giants. Thinking.
Well,
And another rule for people who don't know this game.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Great one. Before I lock that in, another rule is we only have 9 guesses, so if we mess up, the perfect score is completely... Oh, it's over. It's done. We're cooked. But JPP...
We're not messing up.
No, we're not. Jason Pierre-Paul, 59%. So that's a little more popular answer. And then this one's an easy one. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also won a Super Bowl. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl 4 to 5 years ago. I'm just going to put Mike Evans because he only played for the Buccaneers, and we won't have to use him on a different team.
Should we get somebody more
Like
exclusive though? Somebody
who was
Scotty Miller?
Who was the okay? We could do that, but who was the safety that gave the peace sign to Tyreek Hill? Who was that guy?
Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yep, that's who we're doing. We're doing that one.
Okay, I'm good for that.
Antoine Winfield or Antoine Winfield Jr.? It's definitely Junior.
Junior.
Lock that in at 4%. That's what I'm talking about.
We love to see it.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the second row. We are 3 for 3 right now, cruising through this. We have the Saints and the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I feel like when they had Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, like did they like just trade players to each other? I don't think so. Like they wouldn't have done that.
Division rivals don't normally trade
I know.
amongst one another. So it's somewhat. Oh God.
Mark Ingram never played for the Falcons, did he?
No, he did not.
You want to skip it? Come back to it?
Yeah, we'll skip and come back.
All right. Next up, we have the Saints and the Giants, which is another tough one.
Am I dumb? Why is my brain not working?
Did Jimmy Graham play for Atlanta or the Giants?
No, he did not.
No.
Ahmad Bradshaw never played for the Saints, did he?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm trying to think of O.C. Umenyiora. He was never a Saints player.
I don't think so. James Bradbury, did he play for the Saints? No.
Bradbury played for the Giants?
Yeah, oh yeah. Before he played for the Eagles and Panthers, yeah, he played for the Giants.
I thought he was drafted by the Panthers.
He might have, and then he went to the Giants and back. I don't know.
Okay. Fair.
But yeah, he did play for the Giants.
Okay. Saints and Giants. I feel like there is a really obvious one for this. I'm thinking quarterback. I'm thinking along the lines of Tommy DeVito. I know he didn't play for the Saints, but I feel like it's a quarterback like that. Has Tyrod Taylor ever played for the Saints?
No, but pencil that in because the next one is Giants Jets, and Taylor does fit that, doesn't he?
Okay. You can
all right, we're gonna throw Tyrod Taylor in there. Yeah, at 16%. Good pull. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was the backup to Rodgers the year he tore his Achilles. No, that was Zach Wilson. When did Tyrod Taylor play for the Jets? I don't know, but it worked. So, all right, we're gonna skip the Saints because Saints Super Bowl champ. That should be easy. I mean, who do you want to put for that one?
Yeah, Jonathan Vilma.
Vilma, sure.
Trying to go with a more obscure player and not
2%.
Drew Brees.
Good stuff.
Love to see it.
All right, now the final row we have Jets, Falcons, which
That's easy. I mean, I have Brett Favre off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can get someone better.
Vic ever play for the Jets?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we have Brett Favre. I just feel like we can get somebody better than that.
I think Tevin Coleman played for both teams. I feel like.
I think you're right.
I'm not sure if he played for the Jets. I know he played for the Falcons on that Super Bowl team. But
we can just go Brett Favre if you want to just make sure we get it right.
yeah. I think we're going to need to use our sketchier guesses on these Saints ones, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Favre, only 34%. That's actually not bad for Brett Favre. All right, so we have 3 spots remaining. We have Jets and Super Bowl champ, which, yeah, is tough. However, yeah, I mean, Joe Namath, sure. Yeah.
Oh wait, they didn't have to win a Super Bowl
with that team. They just had to have won a. Yeah, they just have to have won a Super Bowl and played for the Jets in their career. It doesn't have to be at the same time.
Okay.
So it doesn't.
That does change things, but we can still put Joe Namath.
Yeah, we could. I'm still putting it. 83%, definitely the most popular one there. All right, so that leaves us with the 2 spots that we skipped: Saints Falcons and Saints Giants. Ugh, Saints.
Did Mario Manningham ever play for the Saints?
I don't think so. We're pulling crazy names in this episode. Like, oh, this is so hard. Like, did Graham Gano, the kicker, ever play for the Saints? Because I know he played for the Giants.
Saints, no.
That would have been a crazy.
Yeah, he played for the Giants and the Panthers, and the Redskins, Commanders.
Kicker pull would have been crazy.
Yeah, it would have been.
Oh.
I cannot think of anybody who has played for the New Orleans Saints and the New York Giants, and this is going to frustrate me so much.
Did Juwan Johnson ever play for the Giants, the tight end, or no? Did he get drafted for the Saints?
I think he was drafted by the Saints.
Derek Carr never played for the Giants.
I think
Daniel Jones never played for the Saints.
Justin Tuck. You got Ewan Yora. We got.
What about Jenkins? Malcolm Jenkins? He ever played for the Giants?
I don't think so.
No. Saints Falcons.
Yeah, I feel like Saints Falcons. I don't know Saints Falcons. I'm gonna be real. I have no idea.
What about Kenny Stills? I know he played for the Saints and he played for the Texans and the Dolphins. He played.
What a pull!
Did he?
I don't know if he played for the Falcons. I haven't heard that name in a minute.
Kenny Stills. I know he played for the Saints and he played for 2 other teams. So did he play for the Falcons or the Giants?
I don't recognize him as a Falcon or a Giant.
Yeah.
I recognize him as a Ram. But he did play for the Saints.
What about Sterling Shepard? He played for the Saints? Because I know he played for the Giants.
No, he's been a Giant I think he's been a Giant for basically all of his career.
God, it's so tough. So tough.
Eli Apple.
Saints Giants. Great pull. Such a pull. You're the best. All right. Eli Apple.
God, okay.
All right, that's a 22%er, so that leaves us 1 away from the Immaculate
I was
Grids.
trying to think.
Saints and Falcons.
I'm trying to think of draftees. First round draftees that may have been busts.
Yeah. That's
round.
good.
That took me to Eli Apple.
Give it another year, and Kyle Pitts will be a Saint. Give it another year.
True.
Who else?
He's on my fantasy this year.
Who else?
I believe this is Kyle Pitts' year.
What about
Besides the point.
Mohamed Sanu? Did he ever play for the Saints?
Oh no, he never did. But he definitely was on the Falcons. I remember him.
He was on the Falcons. I'm trying to think of the Falcons Super Bowl team, and that's like kind of where my mind is going. They had
Devontae Freeman. Was he ever a Saint?
not off the top of my head, but like possibly.
I feel like I recognize him as a Saint. It's either him or Don.
They also had that linebacker Campbell with the dreads. He ever play for the Saints? Devondre Campbell, I think his name is.
Devondre Campbell. Oh, he was on the Packers actually.
Did he ever play for the Saints? I know he played for the Falcons on that Super Bowl team. Yeah. Grady Jarrett he's been a Falcon his whole life.
Yeah, he's been a Falcon his whole life. So has AJ Terrell. What about Kurt Coleman, the safety?
Maybe.
I know he played for the Panthers. He got signed to Carolina from Atlanta. I don't know if he's ever played for.
I would rather guess Freeman, I think, than Coleman. I think. This is so tough.
We can go
this is so tough.
Uh,
I just know there's someone like blatantly obvious that we're not thinking of. Like,
it's because division rivals don't usually trade with each other. So
I know it's yeah. There's no like blockbuster Saints Falcons trade that I can think of off the top of my head. All right, you want to guess Freeman or Kenny Stills or Coleman?
I think Freeman is our best option. I think I might be right with Kurt Coleman. I think he might have played for the Saints.
All right. Which one? I'm gonna let you choose, Freeman or Coleman. What do you think?
Let's go with Freeman. Let's go with Devontae Freeman.
Okay. If this is right, no, wrong. Oh, 8 for 9. You could see it right here. 8 for 9. We're gonna reveal the answers. So
if I hear Kurt Coleman, I'm crashing out.
How do I? Let's see.
Things you hate to see. All right, let me look Kurt Coleman, see what he's done.
All right, here we go. The most popular answer for the one we missed was Joe Horn at 31%. I never would have gotten that.
I would not have either.
But there's 96 players that meet the criteria, so I'm going to go through this list quickly and and see if there's anyone that I like.
Okay, it does not apply to Kurt Coleman, which makes me feel better about myself, because I would have been pissed if he missed that.
There's not a single player on this list that I could name to you. I'm kid you not.
All right, I feel less bad about myself.
So, yeah, no, I feel really good. I feel much better. Yeah. Yeah, Joe Horn at 31%. Like, yeah, no, there's nobody else on here that I recognize. Okay, that makes me feel better.
All right, well, we win some, we lose some. We do what we could. 8 out of 9, that's still a B. And B's get degrees. That's what I always say.
B's get more than degrees, that's for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to our NFL preview. We are so excited for the season. Myself, I'll speak for myself. I'm more excited for the NFL than college football. And that's just kind of how my brain is wired. But stay tuned, folks, for what happens between Baltimore and Buffalo, because you'll be hearing more about that as the year goes on. And if you skip to this part of the episode, go back and listen to one of the more heated arguments in the Hoopers Lounge history. That was very entertaining.
It was entertaining for me. I hope it's entertaining for all of you as well to listen to it. Let us know what side of the debate that you are on, whether you think Baltimore or Buffalo is going to have more success this year. Now that our NFL and college football episodes are done, we should be moving on to more basketball content in later episodes. So that'll be, our more normal content, what you've been used to from us. So, yeah, we hope you enjoyed this special NFL preview episode. Stay tuned for basketball in the very near future, and we will see you next episode.
Yeah, see you guys. Peace.
Peace.